Well, hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jared. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Is that? Yep, yep, it's working. Morning, 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 morning. Um, war. Ooh. What is it good for? So every morning on this show, we get going at 8 a.m., right? And instead of sitting behind a logo and yapping, here's the song we chose. You can play that if you get bored. Everybody got the music, right? No. Okay. First of all, have yourself a happy Memorial Day. Have a Memorial Day is probably more appropriate. And hey, right off rip this morning, um, you should check this out. Here's Harvard University's course catalog. And recently, it has been reported on that, Harvard, in the face of fascism here, has made their U.S. government course available online. I went there this morning to check it out and sorted just by the free courses. And there's like 550 plus free courses on Harvard's course catalog. So consider it a challenge and a gift when some place like Harvard that, for the record, charges up to $30,000 plus for a single class they teach, is also giving away. Yeah, Brittany said, I signed up for the pre-political public policy course for Harvard and the content's great. Yeah. So again, as I kind of explaining to my wife, I'm a socialist, right? So I want everyone to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. And hey, look at Harvard University leading the way in terms of socializing education. Hmm. Socialism. That's what that is. When one of the most prestigious universities in the world, everybody knows Harvard, man, makes their courses, a lot of their courses are free. Anything from a little seminar all the way all the way to full-blown like 12-week courses. Hmm. Uh, I'm gonna take advantage of that. I encourage you to do the same. If you want to take, I hate to commit to anything. Okay, I work a full-time job. I also have this show every day. I have very little free time at all. I need self-paced. But again, I want to encourage you to take that up yourself. Uh, you know, One of the things that we've talked about from moment one here is that I am cognizant that there are a lot of poor, elderly, and disabled people in the United States that don't have any representation. So they don't have anyone thinking about them in this mess. And I try to think about, um, for example, you have a lot of people that would have no way to go to college in the United States. A good percentage of American citizens, I would venture to say 30, one out of every three people has some sort of debilitating thing keeping them from getting an education. Money and wide availability are two of the problems of education. It's just not widely available and it's not typically free. So with Harvard opening their doors and ultimately opening their pocketbooks and saying, "Look, we've made our money here." Again, I want to point out socialism. That's socialism. Socialized education when it doesn't have a cost, and you don't have to register, pay a fee, or buy housing in there in order to take the course. So again, want to make sure we're trotting that out nice and early on the show, giving you plenty of time to go there, click around, okay, as we peruse together uh, the news. Okay. This isn't necessarily fun news, but I mean, it is news. New toilet designs could keep bathroom floors cleaner longer. Just want to throw out there that of all the problems we could be solving in the world, huh? Check this out. Alaska discovers more than 1100, how much? Terawatt hours. Sorry. I'm trying not, trying not to on Memorial Day talk about like all the bad shit going on in the world, right? Like, hold on. What? Hydrokinetic energy. Rivers flow year round, even in the first near clean energy. It's a water power. Huh? Hey, you know what? Y'all needed a little bit of reason to live, right? Hey, good morning, Ange. So yeah, want to start out there. I just want to let everyone know that if you and I are in a contest against each other and I beat you by double digits, guess what I also didn't do? I didn't edge you out. I just want to throw this out there for all the who wrote this? A man? Adiola? It's a woman. So I don't understand. If I beat you 60-40, I barely beat you? Because AOC beat Chuck Schumer in a poll by double digits, and the headline says AOC edges out Schumer. And I just wanted to point out on what fucking planet is a double digit difference close in anything. Close only counts in fucking hand grenades. And there's some other things where close counts, but I'm just throwing that out there. Like, Just because a man was involved, I'm guessing. Mike Johnson, by the way, the Speaker of the House for the Republicans, right now, he says that it's moral to throw people off of Medicaid. So I just want you to know that if you voted for this and you lose your Medicaid and your SNAP and your Medicare gets cut, well, Mike Johnson says it's okay to do that because it's the moral thing to do. hmm hmm the party that wouldn't know morality if it smacked them in the mouth. Okay, but there's a Rolling Stone article there for you. And somebody said, "F that guy." Yeah, well, mm. Go pick y'all grannies and papas up from the nursing home, right? Oh, I don't know if we talked about this, but we should have. I'm a video gamer. This was awesome. Warhammer 40,000, 40K. Games Workshop, the maker of it, is doing so well financially that they're giving $27 million to their staff. Okay. This is profit sharing, also socialist. This is social ownership of a business. This is seizing the means of production. hmm So if you're a Warhammer player, play on. Games Workshop. Games Workshop, for the record, does a lot more than a lot more than just Warhammer shit. Although I would argue that's probably the lot of their profit. They do a lot of dice and stuff. But yeah, that's awesome. Games Workshop, the makers of Warhammer, are giving $27 million to its staff, and we're not talking about the execs, right? We're talking about the actual people that make the games and stuff. It's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we try to have some. All right, here's the number one reason to download the Five Calls app. Contact your senators, voice your displeasure. Um, this spending bill that Donald Trump is trying to get passed through the Senate right now, so he can delay or cancel elections legally. He can ignore Supreme Court rulings for a year or more. He could fire government workers for political disloyalty. Judges can't enforce their own orders. Protests can be tracked and criminalized. LGBTQ rights, education, healthcare, and the media gutted. Your VPN tracked. Your vote suppressed. Your speech flagged. The bill doesn't break the law. It rewrites the law so Trump never has to break it again. We don't need to wonder what would happen if authoritarianism came to America. It's here in 1,100 pages, dressed up as freedom. That if he ever said it won't be that bad or the courts will stop him, just know this bill makes it so they can't. I just want to point out that this bill cannot change the Constitution. I just want to make sure we point this out. Say it. This bill, regardless as to whether or not it passes or not, does not, okay, a violation of the Constitution still illegal as fuck. Just throw that out there. This doesn't, okay? Understand that Donald Trump has immunity. So like he wasn't getting prosecuted anyway, right? So him being able to ignore Supreme Court rulings and being able to fire people, he's already been fucking doing that. It's the thing about it is he doesn't actually have a lot of the authority to fire the people that he does. Okay. And a lot of times those are getting overturned. Those people are going back to their desks. They're just taking a shitty vacation where they're pissed the whole time and anxious because they think they're gonna have to fucking move back in with their parents and shit. It is crazy. So Donald Trump used the official seal at a private crypto dinner. And again, a lot of people are still kind of up in the air on crypto. And given how Donald Trump is drawn to that like a moth to a flame, that should tell you everything you need to know about cryptocurrency. Is that literally the President of the United States used the presidential seal at a crypto fundraiser. Awesome. Also, Donald Trump demands to know Harvard students' information. Understand Donald Trump did not go to Harvard. He didn't get into Harvard. He went to UPenn. Okay. Wharton, right? You've heard. Yeah, he don't like Harvard because Barack Obama went there. Remember, racism is like a driver for Donald Trump. That's literally part of what keeps that motherfucker alive. Okay, so if you were ever wondering why the fuck is he so obsessed with Harvard? Because he knows Harvard's not backing down. They got a lot of money. They got a lot of powerful people from that came from Harvard that they're not up with Donald Trump's fuck shit. They ain't up on that. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah, I did see one of the sections talks about anyone trying to get the Supreme Court to stop doing something illegal has to post bond for compensation, meaning like if you don't have money, you basically can't get the court to work for you, which again is just an indication of where we're headed if we don't absolutely make a big change, a big splashy change. There's a reason I've sat here and said like there's no way Democrats are going to basically sit this out, not act as the opposition party, cover their mouth, their ears, and their eyes, and say, "Hear no evil, see no evil, fear no evil," right? Um, and know that they're holding their tongue too. You know, again, there's something about all of this that just has this weird feeling to it, where like I know like Donald Trump is trying to rule by fiat and it's part of the plan and I just and I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but he just ain't winning enough for me. He ain't doing nothing. Um he's kind of like lost steam. That's what it feels like. It don't feel like he's able to one up himself as consistently anymore. But again, a lot of people have been like, Jared, I want to protest, boycott, strike. What do I do? And I'll be the first one to tell you, they kind of poo-pooed protesting and said, South Korea protested for months, twice to oust their shitty president. And I'd say here's the Mayday Movement USA.org with 90 days straight of protest started on May 1st, and we ain't even through May yet. So if you wondered, do I actually have to get off of the couch and do anything? Well, yeah. And here's the Mayday schedule. Here's their website. Okay. And then also, let's say you're like, Jared, I'm not going to Washington, D.C. to protest. I hear that. Here's 50-51, 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. They've basically been who people been protesting with for a while now. and then also indivisible. Okay, so look, you can even pick a team, which again I would just try to dissuade you from and say generally speaking you want to be at the one in your town or the next or that next town over, right? And understand that largely when you're protesting, you're standing up for people that don't look like you. And I know that sounds fucking weird coming from a white cis male, but I acknowledge that, and that's the reason that I'm here every day, and that I use my platform not to try to profit myself, uh, but to put out the news, to let people know what's going on, to show them like you can boycott, protest, and strike. It does not have to be a violent act. And you also, I was in a Marine Corps infantry during a time of war, and I just want to point out how I'm a lot closer to the front lines than many of the content creators you'll ever see championing for violence, having committed none, and with zero intent to commit violence themselves, have just been talking about this just needs to happen. He deserves it and all that shit. And then just want to point out that they're not doing a goddamn thing. And 99% of the time, when you reach out and you're like, hey, I don't understand your obsession with violence upon this regime. What is the reality of this? Like, are you um, a former service member? Were you in the military? Do you have some bloodlust that you didn't resolve? And every single time, without pause, it's not another infantryman. Did you ever notice the people that have all that bloodlust? They're not grunts. They're not tip of the spear. The people closest to the fray are the ones saying like, "Hey, you realize this shit's like really barbaric, right? Like what the fuck are we doing out here?" The people that are closest to it are the ones saying like, "No, no, we don't want to do all that shit." I've been using my platform from the beginning saying you cannot martyr Donald Trump or Elon Musk or any of these people. Because if you do, and I said martyr, 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 meaning like you can't kill them for what they've done. That's that's not how this works. You also have to be cognizant that the legal system frequently is going to work on their behalf because they have the money, the get out of jail free card. I also want to point out that they have lost their entire asshole financially as a result of supporting Donald Trump in this election. And largely the stock market represents the people that funded this shit. So just so you know, they are paying, have paid, will pay hundreds of millions. Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're all trying to get it back by stealing it from poor people and the elderly and sick people and children and single moms. Yes. Yes, I just want to point out that those people championing for violence using their content are not perpetrators of violence. They're ops. They're your opponent. They're your enemy. Anybody that's saying violence works is a dumbass, and I don't support you. There's a difference between defending yourself and being violent. Just throwing that out there. Okay. You remember, violence begets violence. It's not ever going to work in your favor. It's not like people want peace when you become violent. No, they want to exact revenge, right? It's an energy thing. But I just want to point out how nobody's doing it, by the way. I just want to make sure. I keep saying, you see people using their platform to make content aimed at Republicans, right? At their enemy, right? Their perceived enemy, right? And then they try to tell their own people to commit acts of violence. Well, this is a war of attrition. We have a distinct numbers advantage. Distinct. Distinct. It was negligible a decade ago. It's no longer negligible. We're no longer edging out the Republicans. We know their numbers are inflated. We we know this. We've long since realized like there are way more of us than there are of them. Okay? Way more. It's not that close. Here's the thing about registering a party across party lines. Going into this election, there were 13 million more registered Democrats than Republicans, and those numbers are going the opposite way, meaning the Republican Party's numbers are growing. The Republican Party's numbers are shrinking, and the Democratic Party's numbers were growing. Okay, so becoming more popular, becoming far less popular, already split by 13 million votes. There's a reason I'd said, hey, the art of war says don't interrupt your opponent while they're making a mistake. And flatly, gestures generally, I wouldn't want my name next to what this regime is doing in the paper. Because you know they're not going to say, Jared Malat opposes this big beautiful bill. No, they're going to say that I'm trying to negotiate to kill less people, right? That, oh, I only want $250 billion cut out of Medicaid. But here's the worst part about all this that makes you sick to your stomach. Them numbers that I keep seeing for the cuts to Medicaid, they keep going up. It was a couple hundred billion, and it was 400, and now it's like $800 billion. That's the entirety of the Medicaid budget. Okay. So again, as I said, you have options. You could sit there with your teeth chattering and be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? You could go to Harvard and we could take their free courses and get educated and get motivated to get educated and know that that's sort of the dividing line. One of the things that really struck me during this past election season was how, like, 70% of Democrat voters have an education, and only like 40% of Republican voters have an education, like after high school. And that's such a big, stark difference between the parties that that's your driver right there. There's a reason Charlie Kirk's going to college campuses because he knows kids get to college and they've never left their small town or their small circle of friends, and they get to the big school and now they become friends with everyone. Their environment is crazy, right? Like as a college student, like every single time I went to a classroom, you're like learning something. It ain't that way in high school. Shit, half the time your teacher wasn't there and you just sat there and watched a movie. What are you talking about? Right? College was the actual learning experience, right? So you can get that at Harvard, and you can get that in Harvard in the face of fascism, which is again sort of that act of defiance is commendable, right? You want to look back on this period and say, no, I kind of scoffed at education. Like, no, this is exactly what they want you to do is say like, oh, it's not worth my time and energy because it's free, and I would tell you it's Harvard, and that's not how that fucking works. Okay? So know that if you register and take courses at Harvard, that you will be eventually put on a list. hmm And I know guys have heard about this Golden Dome that Donald Trump wants to let Elon Musk build. This massive network of satellites meant to keep us safe. Just know that shit is not going to work. Because then you just fire the missile below the threshold of the satellites. What are we talking about? Right? The Golden Dome is assuming everything is like a vertically fired ballistic missile, right? But just so everyone knows, that's not even how that fucking works. So there are missiles like you fire from an aircraft and it will just fly straight. And so like if it's under your network of satellites, what are you gonna do? Shoot it out of the sky from above it? Cool story, bro. Some of these long range missiles can move real fast. And again, if you think it it's going to take every Democrat not being an idiot to get to vote this bill down, no, 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 no. There's growing, mounting pressure against Republicans to pass this bill. So, as I've said before, there are still going to be cuts. There's still going to be cuts. It's again, it's probably time to have that conversation with your family members about what you're going to do. If programs like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, if these programs get their funding cut, understand that the impact is already being felt. You know, I'm already having conversations with people at work that are having to move to a new nursing home, or I'm gonna have to leave the place I'm from. Literally, there aren't enough people living here anymore, and like vital services are not consistently available. Throwing that out there. So I know that there's some arm of people out there that are the, oh, come on, that budget doesn't go into effect until 2029, and the Republicans are going to spend the next 3 years being like, oh, where's all the people losing their health care coverage? And knowing they're going to lose midterms, they're going to lose the next election for sure. This is their plan, just throwing this out there for everybody. They know they're going to get their ass kicked. They know. They are not winning midterms. They don't have Donald Trump's not running again. He literally can't. And you have to understand who voted for this. Okay? Next election, if there is one. Yeah. Well, the thing about that is people keep saying that, but all I've watched Donald Trump do is lose since he got in office, since he won the election. So I'm just wondering, if we've got that attitude about next election, if there is one, is that discounting every single election that's happened since election night and understanding that Republicans have won like one and the Democrats have won every other one and it hasn't been close? And in fact, everything Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and JD Vance touch turns to shit, and nobody wants anything to do with it. So I just want to make sure if we're on that tip that there might not be another election. It's like, really? Well, he sure dropped the fucking ball in every single election since he got elected. I kind of think it was a one-shot deal to get him into power to try to insulate himself until he ultimately is going to die. That's what I think happens. I think Donald Trump's his ticker just stops ticking, man. Like, you can only eat McDonald's after midnight, and you can only suck down so many Diet Cokes before your heart explodes. Okay? They made a movie about this. I'm pretty positive. Okay? Yeah. That's what I hope. I don't at all think like, oh, I hope somebody is violent towards the president. I don't think that at all. I just hope it happens in his sleep. Donald Trump Jr. Might run in 2028. Psychics are predicting by or after his birthday, something happens to him. Yep, he ran for president to stay out of jail. Somebody said my vote counted for once in my life, and that's all I know. And I certainly hope that it was not for Donald Trump. And you're not happy with this. There's no way that you look at this bill that guts social safety nets and say, that's my president. This is the bill I wanted. I wanted to replace government workers with loyalists. I wanted to shut down the NOAA, the National Weather Service, and stop FEMA funding. to disaster areas. I wanted to before or after his birthday, pretty broad. Yeah, there's a reason I don't. Hey, you know what? I love everybody. The people that think that they're psychic or tarot card readers or fucking Ouija boarders or whatever the fuck. None of that shit's real. It's all fucking nonsense. Astrology, whatever, like all that shit. Y'all are just dumb. I'll lump y'all in the same group with the religious people. Like anything but fucking reality is what I've recognized everyone else is fucking into, right? Like the purpose of this show every day is discuss what is actually going on in the world because the news is fucking lying to you, right? The mainstream media is lying to you, right? And then you got a bunch of people on here. Doesn't make it accurate though. Yeah, the Nana, same team, sis. I'm saying the same thing. Like anybody that's like, I've got some cards, let me do a reading. It's like, nah, dog. Have you ever played with a deck of cards in your life? Then you know. You know what I'm saying? You know. It's fluff. It's fluff. It's okay. Anything but reality, right? hmm Denial. It's one of my favorite songs by Seven Dust. I share this all the time with y'all because I think there's a bunch of people that are just in denial, grasping at straws. Yeah. Anything to feel powerful. You know what I mean? Anything to feel anything but isolated. Because you know that's kind of how it is, right? Okay. So everybody asked, like, let me be your barometer. There's an opinion piece talking about how we know when America's crossed the line into authoritarianism. Okay. So the easiest metric is the cost of opposing the government. So in democracies, citizens are not punished for peacefully opposing those in power. They need not worry about publishing critical opinions, supporting opposition candidates, or engaging in peaceful protests because they know they will not suffer retribution from the government. In fact, the idea of legitimate opposition, that all citizens have a right to criticize, organize opposition, and to seek to remove the government through elections, is a foundational principle of democracy. Under authoritarianism, by contrast, opposition comes with a price. Citizens and organizations that run afoul of the government becomes targets of a range of punitive measures. Politicians may be investigated and prosecuted on baseless or petty charges. Media outlets may be hit with frivolous defamation suits or adverse regulatory rulings. Businesses may face tax audits or be denied critical contracts or licenses. Universities and other civic institutions may lose essential funding, tax-exempt status, and journalists, activists, and other critics may be harassed, threatened, or physically attacked by government supporters. When citizens must think twice about criticizing or opposing the government because they could credibly face government retribution, they no longer live in a full democracy. So the reason that I am a champion of boycott, protest, and strike is because so long as you can freely attend and return from a protest with all of your fingers and toes and organs and without a bloody nose, you're not you're not quite there yet. Remember, it isn't about results with this regime. So understand, it's one thing to say, well, we are certainly on the doorstep. We are certainly on the doorstep. And as it should be, whatever you're doing on a daily basis is exactly what you'd have done in the past, right? So, for the record, I want to make sure that I tell my audience, you being here with me, talking about what is actually going on and trying to carve out a path forward, being like reasonable human beings. Hey, lots of people spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, do we stay or do we go? New idea. Oppose everything Trump, even if good for America, aka Dems losing it. Yeah, there is a organization putting together a 3-day strike, and they're keeping the dates secret. So if you're looking for that, I'm trying to remember, is it called 3-day strike? Is that the org? Yeah, I was trying to find the website. Yeah, we were certainly on the doorstep. Yeah. And remember, that was an opinion piece. But I want to point out that they lose. That what this administration does is lose over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I get it. I get it. You want to be like, oh my God, we're being oppressed. And it's like, no, they fucking suck. That's the problem, is that the people that mean to oppress you are whack, are just the weakest nerds you've ever met in your fucking life. That won't lift a finger them fucking selves. I just want to point out all the people whose content is either directed at Trumpers or is talking about committing acts of violence. Y'all are the same as them billionaires because the way they feel is they will commit acts of violence to get their way too. And the only difference is they have bazillions of dollars and they are heavily investigated in the prison system and private contracted law enforcement in the United States. And again, I've tried to tell people pen is mightier than the sword, your tongue sharper than any blade. And if you actually think that you're going to beat this regime with pew pews, you're stupid. And I'm not on your team. And there is a difference between self defense and people calling for acts of violence on other people, which is exactly what a lot of these content creators are out here doing. Meanwhile, they ain't doing anything. So they're the same as those billionaires who will not lift a finger, but they will pay people to commit acts of violence on their behalf. And I want to keep saying, remember this. Entry level pay for an ICE agent is 23 thou. Well, Yarme Yahoo said, "Do you look up to the Navy SEALs?" Well, I'm 6'4", so unless they're six taller than 6'4", no. You get it? Or did you mean like not actually look up to, like figuratively look up to Navy SEALs? I was on a boat with Navy SEALs. I was in the Marine Corps infantry though, so do you realize it's kind of fucking dumb? Because not SEALs do like espionage, like undercover in the cover of darkness, slip in and slip out type work, as opposed to like total war. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's Navy SEALs win a lot of their 1v1s, but they're not really built for like the bush. You get what I'm saying? So keep in mind, and this is the my favorite part about this conversation, Yarme. Where the fuck do you think Navy SEALs come from? You think you just sign up to be a Navy SEAL? Who do you think does that? The best of the best in the military, period. Meaning people will cross over, go to the yeah. Hmm. Yep. People also switch branches of service. Lots of people that make SEALs are former service of another branch. And also you watching a single documentary does not make it true for everyone in every class. You understand my dad went to UDT, underwater demolition training, which is the one of the phases of SEAL school. It's just my mom was pregnant with me and the FAA was on strike, so my daddy left the SEALs to get out of the Navy and become an air traffic controller. And so again, my proximity versus your documentary, the people that like make it in the SEALs, plenty of prior service from a different branch. Uh-huh. But it's not 18, 19-year-old kids. It's usually you got to be in the Navy for a while and train to do that. Hmm. And again, lots of people switch branches to become a SEAL. And there are plenty of like Marines that will make it and be a part of a SEAL team. But they're not like, it's not like you sign up for the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. You kind of got to get there. Hmm. You don't get to like walk in the door, I'm a SEAL now. That's not how that works. So yeah, mm, it's, yep, it's very difficult. Yep. But again, the hardest training in the military is Marine Corps boot camp. So if you didn't go through 13 weeks of Marine Corps boot camp, then I don't want to hear another fucking word out of your mouth about hard. I don't give a fuck what they do in the Navy. I can promise you their boot camp at Great Lakes is not as difficult. Mm-mm. Not even on the same planet in terms of level of difficulty. And you know how I know? Because I was in the DEP program with the Marines for a while. And there are people that work out hardcore for years before they go to before they go to the Marine Corps. Hmm. Guess what? The other branches don't do. Have people that aren't in their branch of service show up for 6 months to a year to work out en masse, like as a big ass group, in order to join the military. Yeah, the Navy ain't doing that. Air Force ain't doing it. Army wasn't doing it. Fucking Coast Guard wasn't doing it. Marine Corps. Hmm. Better believe it. Hmm. Because that's like the whole gig is being like a good athlete. Hmm. Again, the thing about this regime that we got to make sure we keep talking about, okay, is again, it's not them at all. Mhm. It's the next wave. It's what comes after them. It's what happens when they regroup, reorganize. Here's an uplifting story. Here's a pro LGBTQ plus group safety. Got a $350,000 grant. And again, if you're feeling, hey, now is my time to protest, boycott, and strike, here's some places to get involved with that. Protest Finder USA is a great subreddit. Here's 5051. We shared the websites earlier, but here's the subreddits, right? You can go there too. And this is kind of funny. People demanded like a 30-hour minimum wage. Meanwhile, Domino's, which is still paying minimum wage, they have absolutely no problem building an autonomous delivery vehicle. How expensive is it to repair a diesel engine in the United States? That's a crazy question. I don't know. Fuck, I need a diesel engine for. It's just a random. Like, how would I know that? Again, here's what's every day I'm like, wait, so this motherfucker is still alive and the prior regime is not speaking out. Like, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris aren't saying, this guy cheated at everything he ever did in his entire life. And you mean he didn't cheat in this past election? Not a single, not a breath of that. Not a single person publicly. I mean, you know who the closest has been? Jasmine Crockett. Because she's done that shit where he supposedly won, and you know what I mean? He obviously he admitted it multiple times, right? But it's like nobody's bringing that up, talking about how hey Donald Trump admitted like he cheated and shit, and it's like, what did the government do with the results of the executive order 13848? What happened to the results of that election? Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why it gets swept under the fucking rug? Think about it. The prior administration had that information, the results of the investigation into the election. Remember how we were like, why did Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rush back to the White House? And we were like, oh, because it's that time. All of those reports are due. They probably didn't get them because there's a whole bunch, and they had to go into the Oval Office together to whatever, whatever. And it's like how does this happen? The ODNI, remember the Office of the Department of National Intelligence, did not put out an all clear. Again, if they had put out an all clear, you're kind of forced to be like, okay, okay, all the investigations into those elections. But here's the thing, every election is supposed to get that investigation. So it wasn't just the US presidential election. And it's like, what about, are they just not, and in my eyes, it's like, okay, the only reason why you wouldn't bring it up is because you plan on blindsiding somebody with it, right? The only reason that you would not bring that up constantly, it has to have something to do with midterms. Like there has to be a fucking plan here. Because here's the thing. I have a feeling there's not. I have a feeling that the dumbest motherfuckers on earth would try to get into politics and this is what we're fucking stuck with. But I can't shake it. Like I can't shake that in my back of my mind. I'm like, are they just gonna let him go? Nobody's ever gonna fucking say anything? But I can imagine like with no true governmental power, right? With not having the House or the Senate or the presidency or even a fucking Supreme Court that you could reliably, I mean, it's almost like they're baiting them, right? Um, but yeah, it just makes me be like, wait a minute. They're not doing anything either. And I know you're like, but isn't that what we want? And it's like, well, yeah, but he's only passed like 5 pieces of fucking legislation. This dude's been in office like 100 million days or whatever, like 120 days, like 4 months. He's by far the most ineffective president ever. Trying to rule by fiat, putting out hundreds of fucking executive orders and presidential orders, and it's air. It's air. He literally whatever the fuck he says does not happen. And I know you don't feel like that. You're like, oh, Jarity, oh, you all can't even, dude. He literally has Peter Thiel, who's the CEO of Palantir, funding ICE. Okay, did what? Somebody said he's done more in a month than Joe has done in 4 years. My God. Do you know how I know that you're a robot? Blocked. But yeah, it is one of those things where like every day you're like, wait, so like no one ran to a stand today where there was a microphone and was just like, fucking, he cheated. And just like you know what I mean? Like he cheated in this election. What are we gonna do? Where are the results of Executive Order 13848? Like, why does it feel like I thought we had this like system of checks, and it's like, well, we just said fuck that system, and it's not like he's passing bills that are being challenged. He's not. But I mean, the only thing is like people have been like, if we have a next election, and it's like, but there's already been multiple elections since then, and the Republicans have lost their whole asshole. So again, I get the sentiment, but can we get some reality? Because in reality, they've given the fuck up. That's the thing I keep trying to point out is like they're not even fucking trying to win. Hey yo, they're not even like trying. They don't give a shit. And it's almost like neither the Republicans or Democrats really want it. And I think it's because of climate change. If you really want to fucking you really want to know why no one's doing anything, I'll say it. Fucking climate change. I saw this video on PBS Terra. I don't know if y'all follow this shit. And it's these two female climate scientists talking about how to get people to wake the fuck up about climate change, largely. And so they're reading along, and they're like, people will look at charts and they're like, I don't see it. And so what they did was they show you these graphs that's like here's the average annual change of temperature over time and it's a bell curve and like this is what you generally expect. And then what they did was they try to find about is what would be the most stark, what would just show you beyond a shadow of a doubt that climate change is real. And through all their calculations, what they found out was rate of change. So it's not whatever the high or the low is, that's not it. It's how fast the temperature changes. And so if you feel like you don't have seasons anymore, that's what we're talking about. Is if you feel like there wasn't spring, for example. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I gotta be real honest. Felt like it hit 80 plus real fast. And generally, in Indiana, when it's 80 and hot in fucking May, June, July, August, September into October, uh, could be summery. And this PBS Terra video, you show the rate of change, and it's a pretty normal rate of change until it gets recent. And then I'm telling you, going off the fucking page. And so the reason I bring all that up is like, suffice it to say, like, nobody wants to be in charge because they don't know what's going to happen with climate change over the next few years. And it's like, who really wants to? And you notice how they don't talk about that either, right? Nobody's talking about the election in 2024. What the fuck happened? You look at all the elections since. What the fuck happened? And nobody's getting up there and saying like you recognize how the Democrats don't have a true leader right now? Yeah? Do you realize how like the Republicans, it's basically Donald Trump. Even Elon Musk has kind of shirked from the spotlight. Why? Why? Because climate change is about to rear its fucking ugly head over the next, I don't know if we survive. But you know, one of the things that I saw when I was playing through Mass Effect and they showed like extraplanetary weather, like weather conditions that aren't survivable, they're not afraid of them. It's that nobody wants to be within a million miles of him because climate change is about to rear its fucking ugly head and nobody wants to be in charge. Look at the fucking Democratic Party. Who is in charge? No one. It's not Kamala. It's not Hakeem. It's not fucking Corey. It's not Murphy, right? They don't have a fucking clear leader. Why? Because climate change. Joe Biden. Joe fucking Biden just the fuck appeared from politics. It's literally not him no more, right? So who's the leader of the Democratic Party? Where they at? Yep. And Donald Trump's denying FEMA assistance. It's a concentration of wealth and power. The rich have realized that half of all people are stupid, the other half are even stupider. Fuck all these people. Climate change is about to kick our ass. I don't want to be in power when it happens. I want to develop the plan to get us out of it. And the people that, yeah, AOC, Jasmine, Bernie, right? I just want to point out, Zeke, not a Democrat, establishment Democrat, not a Democrat. So two of those three people are also not Democrat. No, Bernie is an independent. AOC came from DSA. So again, they're not afraid of Donald Trump. They're just like, let him hold the stick when it all comes crashing down. Yep. No NOAA, hurricane season just days away. Yep. And it's like looming. It's like looming. You're like, so there's going to be a really bad hurricane in the south, like a climate change induced hurricane in the south. And there's no advanced warning system. Right. National Weather Service has been defunded. There's no NOAA. You want to know how it all comes crashing? Yeah, I've been saying climate change will be our demise. Oh yeah. I saw this video on I'm sure Hick and Granny is gonna say you were so right. Do you want a cookie? And it's like, no, I don't want a cookie. I'm just pointing. I'm just kidding. Mhm. Danny's just gonna move it with his Sharpie. Yeah. Maybe he'll just rename it, you know? Fuck Hurricane Bethel. How about Hurricane Donald? You know? Yeah, I want to make sure we say, hey, have a great Memorial Day. Okay. It's I think it's gonna be nice here in Indy. I started marching my dogs. It's kind of funny. Now they expect it. They want a rocket to take on to Mars. You know, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I'm dumber for it, where they were literally talking about like, let's go to Mars. And I was like, we don't have the technology that can withstand the radiation levels on Mars. And he was like, oh, come on, there's some places in the United States that have insanely high levels of radiation. And I was just like, right. And do you see all the people and all their fancy gear just moseying around in those areas? And he was like, well, no, exactly. So the reality of this situation is we don't have the technology to withstand the radiation levels on Mars. So what would happen, and also the time to get there, time to return, it's so long that if they did get on a spaceship and go, by the time you get back, you're basically dead. So what was the point? Um, but that's the thing about accelerationists is that they're not really interested in succeeding. You're saying turn into Hulk on Mars. No, you're just gonna die. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. You talk to people that are like, yeah, it's over for Earth. Really? Yeah. This planet's basically unlivable. And you're like, jumping the gun? Did a little bit? You're like, oh yeah, we got to get off this planet. And you're like, Now? And in my head, I'm like, even the moon makes sense here. Like, you say like, Jared, I'm gonna go live on Mars, and I'm like, you can't though. You can't do that. That's not humanly possible. And they're like, who says? The radiation level on Mars says. So know that like that's their plan. Their plan is to accelerate the destruction of the planet and then pull the ladder up after them and escape. And again, I just want I just want to point out, like, as somebody who grew up and when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. So I went to college and realized that I'm like a big person and they don't put them in space shuttles. Okay. And then I've even been like a little space nerdy as an adult. Like I'm a Star Trek, Star Wars fan. I played Mass Effect, Halo, right? One of the things that you kind of learn in Mass Effect is that the Andromeda Project, if you don't know, you don't know. But in this video game, Mass Effect, the Andromeda Project was the search for Earth 2. Okay. And so what they did was they filled up these massive vessels with like 250,000 people each, and all the best and the brightest scientists and people like that. And they put them in cryo, which is the difference between it being real and fake, is hey, you can't freeze yourself. They put people in cryo and they launched them at habitable zones. And again, these are real things. There are places out there in the universe where, based on our shitty science, and I'm saying that because, like, we ain't even close, Dougie, to another Earth like planet. We ain't even, nope. So, what they did was they shot these massive vessels with all these people on them asleep at these habitable zones. And when you play the last Mass Effect game, Andromeda, you are the son of the original Space Marine and you wake up out of cryo because you've hit a habitable zone. Now, there's the video game part of it where like you can see the evil and it operates as like this electrostatic energy that like engulfs planets and you got to go fight it and then eventually it makes the planet ultimately habitable. But for me, it illustrates how, even though they put, I think it was 12 ships out there, only one of the 12 ships makes it to a planet. Every one of the other ones ends up in the static, like caught. And ultimately, like the ship don't fly no more. Okay? Yeah. Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, and Andromeda. The whole like story. It's from like the end of Earth through like them finding the next Earth. That like it's like I what I wanted to do, I did that. Is Mass Effect. I wanted to be an astronaut. I want to find the next Earth. I did that. Mass Effect. Hmm. Yeah, but that's not real. So understand though, like the thought that I want to find the another Earth and this isn't gonna work, like Earth isn't, we don't have that choice. That is not an option. And that's the problem, is that these people that have loads of money cannot be talked out of it. Why? Because they're drug addicts, actually. Hardcore drug addicts. The people that mean to oppress you, your David Sachs, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump, were all high as fuck at the inauguration. and they have frequent conversations about defeating the dragon and demons and shit. And so again, I just want to continue to point out the people that mean to oppress you, the powers that be, these billionaires, they think that the earth is uninhabitable and that we need to get to another planet. And as someone who wanted to be a fucking astronaut my whole life, it's not fucking real. Not fucking real. Yep, they have bunkers and backup plans and all that shit. Yep. What they're not planning for is the heat death of the universe as we know it. Mhm. The continued rise in global temperature, the rate like which we've never seen before. Gonna get real hot, kids. You might want to think about where you live. And if it's already notoriously fucking hot where you live, you might want to move somewhere else. You might want to move. Happy Memorial Day. But if you're listening to me and you recognize like Jared's probably right, I'm right. There's not an Earth 2. We're not going to be able to inhabit Mars, not for long. Earth Earth is all we got. Yep, move farther north, but not too far north. It might get too cold, and you're just gonna hate yourself even further when it's negative 100 degrees outside. Actually, you don't want to live near a big body of water with rising tide, because you also got to figure you're either gonna lose that water supply or it's gonna flood the area, right? So you move too close, you become too reliant, and then it gets stripped from you when some idiot takes out a dam or something. Yeah, what is insane to me is that no one on the right say or on the left, save for Jasmine Crockett, has brought up the 2024 US election or been asked about it. So I also want to make sure that we say I've also seen them give interview after interview since the election. Think about this. Everybody, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you name them, AOC, Bernie, Jasmine Crockett, they're doing press all over the fucking place, right? Not a fucking one of them has been asked about the 2024 US election and said no comment. They're not even being asked. You have to see that. No one no one in the media is regular. I mean, I don't count myself, right? So I'm not looking in, okay? But no one's saying like, "Oh, hey, did y'all know Donald Trump created this executive order 13848. It's still active. Joe Biden re signed it every year. What it does is it requires um, all relevant agencies to conduct an investigation of every election. One of the things that we learned studying this is that the rules of elections changed because of Donald Trump, actually. See, what you won't have happen anymore is you won't have a politician claim that an election was stolen while votes are being counted, and that cause like an audit. So does that make sense? So no more crying foul. Okay. So you're not. Yeah. See, that's the thing. S&M is like Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin and Russia, they have been doing this my whole life. They have been threatening to nuke us and threatening American politicians my whole life. Why now? Why now? But yeah, one of the things that you have to notice with your eyeballs, they're not even getting asked about the 2024 US election and about how for example, the Office of the Department of National Intelligence is supposed to come out with an all clear. And I just want to know, like 4 or 5 months into Donald Trump's presidency, and that hasn't happened, even with a changing in the guard. Even with a changing in the guard. The new Tulsi Gabbard didn't come out and say, oh, by the way, the 2024 US election went swimmingly, right? My thing is, what happened with the Biden administration? What happened when they got all that information? And why have they shut the fuck up and got the fuck out of the way? Please, got the fuck out of the way. And then they aren't also calling into question the results of this election. Why, in your opinion, is it? Here's what I think. I've said this from the moment one. If one person dies, it's a matter of national security. If one American dies internationally, it's a matter of international security. Okay? Yes, 9 people have died in ICE custody. Uh-huh. hmm Donald Trump's absolutely breaking the fucking law, all kinds of shit. But when you really stretch him out and you're like, what's he actually accomplishing? Dick. He's not actually accomplishing anything. Said he was gonna deport 14 million people. Guys, we ain't even at 1,000. And he also hasn't deported a single fucking person. Every single person is being kidnapped and fucking trafficked. So, kidnapped, trafficked, and there's like a 10% chance you die. Okay, remember, it's not about results, right? It's about attacking the smallest groups of people, population groups in the United States. For the record, you know who are two very small groups of people in the United States, and I'm not saying this to be offensive. I'm talking about numbers. Two very small groups of people in the United States, trans people, oh, and Venezuelans. Actually, in terms of the US population, there's like a few million people in the United States that are Venezuelans, about 1%. Same thing for trans people. There's not actually that many fucking trans people, right? The reason that this administration is attacking them is because those are the smallest population groups. Easy targets. There's not that many of them, and so there can't be like that many rich, Venezuelans that are going to come out here and like do some shit, there can't be that many. So they're attacking them because they perceive their numbers are weak, right? So the cult leader here in the United States, Donald J. Trump, the tribal warlord, is acting as a tribal warlord. hmm hmm Having people literally kidnapped. hmm Does anyone remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? No, I'm too young. Hot Pocket said, "Do you need help?" Thank you. Are you clocking in or what? Somebody said they keep hoping they have a hidden card in their deck, and it's like maybe it's the 2026 midterms, and maybe they're going to campaign for the 2026 midterms on put us back in power, and we'll hold him accountable. And oh, by the way, Executive Order 13848. But again, they're not fucking talking about it. Why did that content die? What about Midas Touch? What about Jess Denson, right? Talking about this shit, about illegitimate president shit. Why did that die? Why aren't we talking about that anymore? What? You get what I'm saying? It's like, why aren't we talking about that anymore? And then there's going to be people that say because nothing's going to happen, right? That's the number one comment. Nobody's talking about it, Jared, because nothing's going to happen. I just don't believe that. Something in me, right? Yeah, I show up every day. We talk about the news. You don't think like I'm not looking for it, right? You don't think like I'm not like, where's the, hey, we got to talk about the 2024 US election from literal anyone. And the thing that drives me the craziest is the people that you would think would want to help. In my eyes, like I'm picturing AOC being confronted with my content where I say, "Hey, why won't you talk about what happened in November? Did you know about Executive Order 13848? Did you know about Justice Title 9? Were you educated on this? Is this why you didn't speak out during the election? Nobody cried foul. Guy cheated at everything in his life, and everybody was just like, yeah, he won. And y'all conceded super fucking quick. And it's like something fucking is going on. And again, one of the things that I'm not accepting is I'm not accepting, oh, people were threatened. They were blackmailed. It's like, mm-mm. That shit has been happening in politics my whole life. And before I was born, even. So, people out there saying, Carlin Monahan said I was 12. Several days was absolutely terrifying. Oh, I bet. How close we were to nuclear holocaust? Yeah. Which is absolutely crazy to me. And think about this. This is all to avoid accountability, right? These people that mean you harm. This is all about them evading accountability. Yeah. So, hey, again, I just appreciate y'all being here. About 40 people here to close the show out today. Again, super consistent growth out of the show as long as we can stay out from underneath the boot of TikTok, as it were. But yeah, no, January 14th, Donald Trump wants a big military parade for himself. And it also, just so you have the full story, also June 14th is the U.S. Army's 250th birthday, and it's also their parade, their party. It's also the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps in the fall, right? So if you thought I was unreasonable before, ho ho ho. And by the way, I want to close with good news. Awesome news, actually. So I've been working like a million days in a row, right? So I think I'll work, I want to say like 10 or 11 days in a row when it's all said and done. So that I have this upcoming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Okay. Um, a guy that I served with on active duty in 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines Weapons Company, is going to be in Indianapolis this upcoming weekend. There is a convention called SCG Con, Star City Games Convention. So if you play, I don't know what they're playing now, like Flesh and Blood, Star Wars Unlimited, uh, Flesh and Blood, Star Wars, Pokemon. I play Magic the Gathering. Okay. He's coming to Indianapolis for 4 or 5 days. I put him up in a hotel. Um, so I always say like I could lose my job today, but I will be downtown this weekend hanging out with a buddy of mine from active duty. Um, I just think it's like that's incredible news. I joined the Marine Corps 20 years ago this summer. So to spend a little bit of time with someone that you served with, someone I was actually buddies with on active duty that I'm friends with now, it's awesome, right? So obviously have a great day, have a fantastic Memorial Day, and we'll see you tomorrow, no matter what, right?